Apple has finally introduced a brand new iPad mini, which, fun fact, is the first time we got a full redesign ever since the iPad mini was first introduced 9 years ago. And I managed to find not 5, not 10, but 20 things you probably didn't know about this new iPad mini. Okay, at number 20, I've seen that some people think that this new iPad mini is a smaller iPad Pro, but instead, it is a smaller iPad Air with a lot of the features that the Air has. So if you cannot decide between the two, just get the size you need. But number 19, it does have some advantages over the Air, such as faster performance. Even though Apple hasn't said a word about this at the event, the new mini actually comes with Apple's A15 chip, the same one that the iPhone 13s get, while the iPad Air still comes with the older A14. Now, don't get me wrong, these are both very powerful processors, and it's unlikely that you'll notice any difference in day-to-day use, but if you plan on using your iPad for longer, then the new mini is going to be a bit more future-proofed. Although, compared to even the regular iPhone 13, the mini seems to have a slightly underclocked A15 chip, for no reason that makes any sense to me, as the mini does actually have a larger battery than the iPhone. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the old mini came with the Apple A12 chip, which makes the new mini up to 40% faster CPU-wise and up to 80% faster GPU-wise. And we also get 1 extra gigabyte of RAM to a total of 4 from 3, which should help with background app use. But number 18, the A15 GPU inside this new iPad mini is actually slower than what you would expect, and that's because this is the new 4-core GPU version as opposed to the 5-core version that we got with the iPhone 13 Pros. So if we actually had a 5-core GPU version, that would have been 40% faster than this 4-core GPU that we got inside this iPad mini. But yeah, like I said, the improvements over the previous mini are already quite massive nonetheless. And number 17, 5G is also slower. So you probably know that the cellular model of the iPad mini has 5G now, while the iPad Air only has 4G. But unlike the US iPhones, the iPad mini still lacks that super fast millimeter wave 5G that can give you those insane speeds of over 1 gigabit per second. The mini's sub 6 GHz 5G is around 100 to 400 megabits per second, usually around 200, so significantly slower. Okay, number 16, the front camera comes with a couple of surprises, as the mini now has a better 12 megapixel front camera than the iPad Air's 7 megapixel one. It is also a ultra wide angle module now, meaning that you can take some pretty impressive group shots if you're into that. At number 15, there's this really cool new auto follow feature thanks to that ultra wide field of view of the new front facing camera. This is called Center Stage, and when you're in a FaceTime call, you basically get an automatic zoom and crop that follows you around the frame. The current iPad Air lacks this cool addition, and my favorite part is that you can actually use the zoom when you're taking regular selfies too, in case you're not a fan of that super wide angle. But do keep in mind that the resolution of those photos will be lower than 12 megapixels, as everything will be digitally cropped in. Number 14, we also get some other big case changes, with the biggest one being the volume buttons being relocated from the right to the top. Now, this was done because of the Apple Pencil, which now takes up almost the entirety of the right-hand side of the frame. You might think that this is a strange change, but one advantage is when you're watching videos in landscape, as you'll very easily be able to adjust the volume that way. Speaking of watching videos, at number 13, the iPad mini actually has the best display in an iPad in one particular way. So even though the iPad mini does not have a 120Hz ProMotion panel or the 100 extra nits of brightness that the iPad Pros do, it does actually have the sharpest display on any iPad at 326 ppi compared to 264 of the other iPads, and this is because Apple uses specific pixel densities on all of their devices based on the distance that they'll use them from. So for example, larger devices like the MacBooks have 226 ppi. The iPad Air and the iPad Pros, they have 264, the iPad mini has 326, while the iPhones, which you'll be holding closest, have 458. And speaking of Macs, when you buy a new Mac, one of the first things that you'll be doing is installing apps. This is why I think the very first app that you should install is Setup, our sponsor for this video. I use Setup on a daily basis. In fact, I'm actually a paying customer myself, so let me show you why. Let's say that I want my speakers to be louder, so I just type in volume. Setup has actually found an app called Boom that does just that. It increases the volume of my speakers more than what the normal maximum is. Just listen to this. This is before. And this is after. That's pretty insane. Oh, and I don't even have to buy Boom as it is part of Setup. And so are 220 plus more apps just as useful. You look for a task and Setup will give you the app you need. We even teamed up to give you my recommended list of apps. Just go to Collections and look for the Zen of Tech Work Pack as it contains all the apps that I use and recommend. Try it for free for 7 days by using the link below. And now, back to the video. Okay, number 12, the aspect ratio has also been changed. You see, the Mini has always had a 4:3 aspect ratio display. The new one now has a 3:2, which means that it is now taller, making it even better for watching videos or for browsing the web. But I should note that the side bezels are actually thicker now, which does make the display slightly narrower than before. At number 11, you're probably wondering if the new iPad mini is any bigger than the last model because of the larger screen. The answer is no, and that's because it is actually smaller. The width is identical at exactly 134.8 millimeters on both, but the new Mini is 7.8 millimeters shorter, all while having a larger 8.3 inch versus 7.9 inch display. That's pretty good. The new Mini is also lighter, by the way, by 7.5 grams, with the only downgrade being a tiny 0.2 millimeter added thickness. Other than that, it's an improvement in every single way. But there is one thing that Apple hasn't changed, which is smart keyboard support. With no smart connector, the new Mini still does not support any smart keyboard. Perhaps the reason for this being that Apple could not design a good full-sized keyboard for the small form factor of the Mini, as even the 11-inch iPad Pro's keyboard sacrifices on some individual key sizes compared to the full-size 12.9-inch iPad Pro keyboard. Now, the good news is that if you want to use a keyboard with this new Mini, there are still a couple of Bluetooth keyboards that you can buy. Yes, the individual keys will be very small, but at least you do have some third-party options. At number 9, the back camera also gets a couple of improvements, with the new Mini now using the same main module as the iPhone XS from 2018, with the only exception being the lack of optical image stabilization. Still, unlike the previous Mini's iPhone 4S-like camera, and this is a very capable module with some massive improvements including Smart HDR3 and all the image processing features that we got with the iPhone XS, now made even better with a new Apple A15 chip. It is quite interesting how we don't get Smart HDR4 even though this is the Apple A15's image processing. Video recording has been improved too, with the new Mini now supporting 4K 60 as opposed to 1080p 30. Now, this is a massive improvement, and to be honest, it's even bigger than it might seem like on paper. Because with this new iPad mini, you can now shoot, edit, and publish in 4K, all from this very thin and small device. And by the way, if you want to see some actual camera samples in different scenarios, make sure to subscribe for the full in-depth review of this new iPad mini. At number 8, on top of the camera improvements, we also get a flash, which is something that not even the iPad Air has. Of course, that you can use this for when you're taking photos and videos, but I do believe that the best use case scenario is for using it as a torch. You know, when you're trying to find things at night, or you can use it to scan documents when there's not enough light around you. So I think it's a good feature, and I think it has even more use cases than what you might expect. At number 7, we also get a faster Wi-Fi thanks to Wi-Fi 6 instead of 5. Now, this means speeds of up to 1.2 gigabits per second as opposed to 866 that we got before. Now, as you can probably tell, they're both really fast. It's not a massive improvement, and I'm pretty sure you won't even notice the difference in actual speeds and day-to-day use, but faster Wi-Fi is always welcome. Number 6, let's talk about external monitor support. For example, did you guys know that you can use the new iPad mini as a monitor for your Mac with Sidecar? Also, if you have a Mac with macOS Monterey, you can just move your mouse from your Mac onto the iPad screen and yeah, it would appear on the iPad itself, allowing you to control the mini in iPadOS using your Mac's cursor. How cool is that? Oh, and you can also connect the mini itself to an external monitor using the brand new USB Type-C port, but you need to be aware that you can only mirror your screen and not extend it, and on top of that, you'll still get those two black bars on the side of your content. Number 5, the USB Type-C port has a few extra advantages aside from just being able to easily connect to external monitors. For example, you can use your MacBook charger to charge your iPad mini as well, and you can also connect it to stuff like digital cameras and external battery packs that can charge your mini faster than what you could through Lightning. Although in my opinion, the biggest advantage to the switch to USB Type-C are actually the faster transfer speeds, with the new mini supporting up to 625 megabytes per second compared to just around 25 with the previous model. So if you plan to shoot content on the mini and then transfer it to your computer for editing, then this is a pretty massive improvement. Number 4, even though Apple has added USB Type-C, they did remove the headphone jack, which means that the only way to connect headphones now is through Bluetooth or by buying a USB Type-C to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter. Now, I honestly don't mind this change, as I do have wireless earphones and everyone that I know also has a pair. So let me know in the comments if you mind this change or not. And I think you're really going to love this. And number 3, the sound quality has also been improved thanks to the speakers now being stereo, with one speaker at each end as opposed to the mono speaker that we had before. When watching a video in landscape, your iPad mini would enable stereo mode. When watching a video in portrait, it would still use both speakers, just not in stereo. And number 2, I don't know if you guys noticed, but there is no silver color anymore, as this has now been replaced by the new Starlight, which is some sort of pink/off-white version. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that, but at least there is a new purple, which does look pretty good. And for some reason, Apple hasn't added the new midnight color to the mini despite the new iPhones and the new Apple Watch getting it. Instead, the mini still comes in traditional space gray, which is weird, but okay. And at number 1, the most important thing that you should know about this new iPad mini is the price change and the price difference between itself and the iPad Air. You see, the new mini is $100 more than what the previous mini was, which puts it just $100 behind the iPad Air. And yes, for the most part, these are the same tablets, aside from the differences that I mentioned before. But if you need a larger display, then spending $100 to get the Air isn't a bad idea after all. But remember, you will be missing out on some specific features that I mentioned the Mini has over the Air. Let me know what do you guys think about this new Mini, and stay tuned for the full review. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. ZenofTech, signing out. Cheers.